Something else you need to research in figuring out, what is the current situation of a brand. You need to look at their competition. What was the consumer most likely to buy instead of the brand that you're working for? You can look that up in research. Again, I'm thinking of Mintel has a lot of brand preference information. You can use your judgment and knowledge of the category yourself. You can go to retail and see what else is displayed around the product in the same category. You can read write-ups about the marketplace because they'll specify different brands and they'll even say whether somebody competes. So you need to get a feeling for particularly competitors who have recent positive business trends. It suggests that they're taking business away. They're building their share of the whole market. They're building the percentage of the market that they control, probably. What are they doing right? Is it a product differentiation of some kind? They've improved the product. They have the best product. Their product offers a benefit that no one else has had before. You want to, at a minimum, you want to look at their most recent advertising and do a Tabasco analysis of it. This may or may not be included in your presentation, depending on what you discover. If you discover that there are some issues, if you discover there are things to learn, you might want to include some kind of competitive analysis. So you start with secondary research. We've talked now about secondary research. I've encouraged your usage of the Gladys Marcus library and the databases therein to find out all you can about the overall category, shampoo category, okay? The company, you're working on Head & Shoulders as a brand. Well, the company that owns Head & Shoulders is Procter & Gamble. So then you find out how Procter & Gamble's doing. What are the trends the past 5 years, 10 years, 1 year? Is the business up or down? You maybe listen to a quarterly earnings call. And then you delve into what's going on with Head & Shoulders. And look it up in all the secondary resources you can find to see if their business is up or down and why. You look at their competitors as well. So then we turn to primary research, which is most likely going to be some kind of direct-to-consumer research. You need to figure out what you need to know about the customer. So you want to think about the purchase funnel. You want to think about where people are on the purchase funnel. What is your specific job here? Now, I've said that you want to do prospecting. You need a prospecting plan. So you've got to think how you're going to, who is the target customer? Who is the best user of the product, the most valuable customer? Do whatever you can to figure that out, probably by secondary research. And then how do you attract more of them? You're going to have one plan that talks to that. And the other part of the plan is to talk to people who've already tried the product, where you want to build their loyalty with a customer relationship management program. So it could be in your interest to try to find current customers of the product and see how loyal they are and see maybe why they're loyal or they're not loyal. For primary research, people out there who are not using your product and using other products, what's important to them in finding a shampoo? What are the important characteristics or benefits or qualities of the shampoo? Is it price? Is it packaging? Is it, dandruff removal? What is it? And in terms of the competitors, what are they doing right or wrong? But you can ask consumers to list who they're buying now and why they prefer it. So primary research to get a sense for some clues as to how to move people along the purchase funnel. Okay. OS, I keep Ocean Spray. I finally got it wrong there. SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey is certainly an option. You can only do, for the free version, you can only do, I believe, 10 questions, so it's a bit limiting, but it's certainly acceptable. You just have to be economical and smart about finding the right questions. Face-to-face survey is another way to go, but of course these days it's a little hard to get face-to-face, so you are probably going to end up doing some kind of SurveyMonkey survey. Here are some ways to collect information, primary data, observation of behavior, doing a survey, doing some kind of experiment, and you can mail out surveys, you can call people, you can interact with people in a busy place, go up and say, would you mind answering a few questions about something? And of course online. I don't know how old this stupid thing is. Hang on, these are some things that I pulled because I like them, and they're still okay. You'll forgive me if I'm doing a little editing as I go through here, because when I see these things, it bothers me. Okay. So we've talked about qualitative, quantitative. We talked a little bit about in-market testing, which is what P&G does a lot of. By the way, another way to do in-market testing, I would ask you to think to yourselves, how did Twitter test whether they can increase the amount of characters that they would allow? How do they do an in-market test? Was it expensive? A little more about focus groups. We've talked about this already. It's probably a two-way mirror somewhere in that room, and it's definitely being recorded. Okay, so we talked about those. Contacting research subjects. Okay. Okay, so we talked about this. I'm just repeating it. It's scientific. Okay. That purple flower is there. It's actually a pea flower from a pea plant, pea pod. And this gets back to Gregor Mendel, who first did the testing. He bred purple and white pea plants together to see what color the offspring would be, and he found things about hereditary traits and how they were passed down. But he always varied one element at a time with the plant. He was testing several traits. He was testing colors of the flower, height of the plant, and something else. I don't remember the third one. But the point is, these are very scientific, where he only tested for color to see what would happen, and then he tested for height. He didn't do it all at once or mix it up. Just gives cleaner results. What is a placebo? The test and control. And isn't it interesting that, and I'm sure you know what a placebo is, it's being talked about a fair amount now with all this vaccine testing, because just being given a shot tends to increase people's positive. They sort of have hope they're going to be cured, and the mental effect of that can actually help cure someone. And so the right way to test any medical drug or vaccine is to, the test group gets the drug, the real drug, and the control group, as it's called, gets a placebo. And then you're really only measuring the efficacy of the drug. You're not including the fact that getting a shot can have an influence on its own. Interesting psychological stuff there. The power of the mind over the body. Test and control. Okay. Really what it boils down to is you're trying to find out what people really think and feel. Okay? Whatever you're doing with your primary research. And the interviewer cannot influence the subject or bias the study in any way. One way to put it for primary market research is, it's almost a definition here, it's an attempt to find out the projectable truth. Now, developing a questionnaire, I said I'd talk a little bit about that. Okay. Sequence of the questions. Make sure they're all necessary. Don't just have BS questions in there that aren't going to do anything. This is the real point. Questions cannot influence or lead answers. So typically, this is a 20-question survey. You start very generally, and you find out some basic information about who you're talking to. Demographics, age, gender, household size, income, whatever is going to be relevant to what you're asking about. Psychographic, you may want to ask some of those, probably not on your survey. Buying pattern questions is typical. Do you ever purchase shampoo? Okay, you don't say Head & Shoulders is never mentioned here. At the very end it's mentioned, but not until then. So you're just trying to find out how they interact with the category. Do you use it? Do you purchase it? What's important to you when you buy it? Why do you choose one brand over another? Okay. And then benefits questions. What features do you look for? Or you could have them rate the importance from it's usually 1 to 5 these days is the scale we use. What's the importance of shiny hair? What's the importance of price? And then you can have some of those types of rating questions. Then some you're going to have what are called open-ended questions, where, what benefits do you look for in shampoo? And then they're going to talk a little bit, and you're going to write it down. And then at some point, you're probably, if you're doing this on behalf of a brand, you're going to want to ask about, what do you think about such and such a brand? Have you heard of it? Are you aware of it? What do you think it does? What does it stand for? But again, there's nothing in here everything starts general, okay, and only gets to specific brands really at the very end in market real testing. Well, of course, what Twitter did is just test, right? They took a certain sample of their users, projectable sample size, maybe it was 100,000, I don't know, 50,000, and they gave them more room for text, and they announced it, and they saw what would happen. Did they spend more time on the site or less, or whatever the goals were for their business goals? They wanted to see if giving more characters, doubling the amount of characters allowed by Twitter, what effect it would have. Okay. Primary research is expensive and requires skill. You got qualitative, mostly focus groups, and quantitative, which requires a large sample size and can become very scientific. Questionnaire you have to be careful with. Interpreting market research. Normally the moderator who's run the group will pull together a summary, but you typically will have all of it on tape to listen to if you want to. With quantitative, well, you just got to see what you found. What can I say? Don't get carried away with analyses. Come up with things that are useful, that are going to really help answer questions for you. Okay. So this is what we've talked about with research, and hopefully give some guidance to you folks as you begin your doing a direct marketing plan for the brand that your team chooses.